Hello, my friends, and welcome back to VerbaJoy English, where you learn English and speak with joy. This is day 11 of our 14-day English speaking challenge. Today's lesson is a little different. Today, you are going to test your English listening level. Are you A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, or C2? By the end of this video, you will have a better idea. You will listen to 6 short passages. Each passage represents one level of English. The language will become more difficult step by step. The A1 passage will use short sentences and familiar words. The A2 passage will include connected ideas about everyday life. The B1 passage will use more detail and different verb tenses. The B2 passage will include opinions, experiences, and natural expressions. The C1 passage will explore more complex and abstract ideas. And the C2 passage will use subtle meaning, advanced vocabulary, and sophisticated sentence structures. After each passage, I will ask you 3 questions. Give yourself 1 point for every correct answer. You will need a piece of paper or the notes application on your phone. Write these levels: A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. Leave space beside each level for your score. There are 3 points available at every level. Listen only once if you want a real challenge. Do not use subtitles during the first listen. Do not translate every word. Focus on the main idea and important details. This activity can only estimate your listening level. It is not an official CEFR examination or certificate. However, it can show you which level feels comfortable and where English begins to become difficult. Before we begin, write this in the comments. Day 11. I'm ready to test my English. Are you ready? Let's begin with A1, Level 1, a 1 beginner at a 1 level. You can understand simple words and short sentences about familiar subjects. Listen carefully. My name is Lucy. I am 23 years old. I live in a small flat with my sister. Our flat is near a supermarket and a bus stop. I work at a bakery. I start work at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. I make bread and put cakes in the shop window. I also help customers. I like my job because the bakery smells wonderful. At 1 o'clock, I eat lunch. I usually have soup and a sandwich. I finish work at 4 o'clock. After work, I take the bus home. In the evening, my sister and I cook dinner together. Then we watch television or listen to music. I go to bed at 10:30 because I wake up early. Now answer 3 questions. Question 1. Where does Lucy work? A. At a school. B. At a bakery. C. At a hospital. Question 2. What does Lucy usually eat for lunch? A. Soup and a sandwich. B. Rice and chicken. C. Cake and fruit. Question 3. How does Lucy travel home? A. She walks. B. She drives. C. She takes the bus. Here are the answers. Question 1. B. She works at a bakery. Question 2. A. She eats soup and a sandwich. Question 3. C. She takes the bus. Give yourself 1 point for each correct answer. If you scored 2 or 3 points, you can understand A1 listening. Now let's move to A2. Level 2. A 2 elementary. At a 2 level, sentences are longer and ideas are more connected. You will hear common language about routines, plans, and personal experiences. Listen carefully. My name is Yusuf, and I live in a busy neighborhood outside the city center. During the week, I work as a receptionist at a small hotel. My journey to work takes about 30 minutes by train. I normally leave home at 7:15 because my shift begins at 8. At work, I welcome guests, answer telephone calls, and help people find places to visit. I enjoy meeting travelers from different countries, although the hotel can become very busy in the afternoon. Last Saturday, I did not have to work, so I planned a day out with my cousin, Sammy. We wanted to visit a new science museum in the city. The weather was cloudy when we left home, but we decided to go anyway. We met at the train station at 10 o'clock. When we arrived at the museum, there was a long queue. We waited for about 20 minutes before buying our tickets. Inside, we saw old machines, robots, and an exhibition about space. My favorite part was a room where visitors could control a small model of a spacecraft. After the museum, we had lunch at a cafe nearby. I ordered pasta, and Sammy chose a vegetable pizza. It started raining while we were eating, so we stayed in the cafe longer than planned. We talked, drank tea, and watched people running through the rain. We returned home in the early evening. It was a simple day, but I really enjoyed it. Now answer the questions. Question 1. Why did Yusuf leave home at 7:15 during the week? A. His shift began at 8. B. The train was always late. C. He wanted to buy breakfast. Question 2. What was Yusuf's favorite part of the museum? A. The old machines. B. The model spacecraft. C. The robot exhibition. Question 3. Why did Yusuf and Sammy remain in the cafe longer? A. They were waiting for another friend. B. The food arrived late. C. It started raining. Here are the answers. Question 1. A. His shift began at 8. Question 2. B. He liked controlling the model spacecraft. Question 3. C. They stayed because it started raining. Write your A2 score. If you scored 2 or 3, your listening is at least around A2. Now let's continue to B1. Level 3. B1. Intermediate at B1 level. You can follow clear speech about work, travel, goals, and experiences. You can usually understand the main message, even when you do not know every word. Listen carefully. 3 months ago, Elena moved to another city to begin a new job as a laboratory assistant. She had lived in her hometown all her life, so moving away was both exciting and uncomfortable. During her first week, everything felt unfamiliar. She did not know the bus routes. She often got lost, and she missed having dinner with her family. Her new job was also more demanding than she had expected. She had to prepare equipment, record test results, and follow detailed safety procedures. Because she was afraid of making a mistake, she checked every task several times. This made her work slowly, and at first, she worried that her manager was disappointed with her. One afternoon, her manager asked her to come into his office. Elena expected a complaint, but instead he told her that she was doing well. He explained that accuracy was more important than speed during the first few months. He also suggested that she ask more questions instead of trying to solve every problem alone. That conversation changed Elena's attitude. She began speaking more openly with her colleagues. Colleagues showed her a quicker way to organize the equipment, while another invited her to join a weekend walking group. Through the group, Elena explored different parts of the city and gradually made new friends. She still misses her family, but she calls them regularly and visits whenever she can. Now, when she thinks about her decision to move, she feels proud. The experience has taught her that feeling uncomfortable does not always mean you have made the wrong choice. Sometimes it means you are learning to live in a new way. Now answer the questions. Question 1. Why did Elena work slowly at first? A. She disliked the job. B. She checked her work repeatedly because she feared making mistakes. C. Her equipment was old. Question 2. What advice did her manager give her? A. Work longer hours. B. Return to her hometown. C. Ask more questions. Question 3. What is the main lesson Elena learnt? A. New experiences can feel uncomfortable while helping us grow. B. Living near family is always better. C. Managers usually expect employees to work quickly. Here are the answers. Question 1. B. Question 2. C. Question 3. Write your B1 score. If you scored 2 or 3, you can probably follow clear intermediate English. Now let's test B2, level 4. B2, upper intermediate at B2 level. You can understand detailed stories, explanations, and opinions. You can follow the speaker's reasoning and recognize how events influence feelings and decisions. Listen carefully. For most of his 20s, Marcus believed that success meant having a secure office job, a reliable income, and a clear path towards promotion. He worked for a large insurance company and was considered a dependable employee. His salary increased almost every year, and his managers often praised his performance. From the outside, his career appeared to be progressing perfectly. Yet Marcus gradually became dissatisfied. He did not hate his work, but he rarely felt interested in it. The days were predictable, and he had begun measuring time by how long remained until the weekend. In the evenings, however, Marcus felt completely different. He had always enjoyed repairing old furniture. He loved taking a damaged table or chair, understanding how it had been built, and slowly returning it to useful condition. At first, this was only a hobby. Then friends began asking him to repair things for them. Some even offered to pay. The idea of turning his hobby into a business seemed exciting, but it also felt irresponsible. Leaving his job would mean giving up a stable salary and accepting an uncertain future. For nearly a year, Marcus avoided making a decision. Eventually, instead of choosing between safety and freedom immediately, he designed a gradual plan. He reduced unnecessary spending, saved enough money to cover 6 months of living costs, and began accepting small repair projects at weekends. He also attended an evening course in business management. The extra work was exhausting, but it allowed him to test whether customers genuinely valued his service. After 8 months, he was receiving more requests than he could complete in his spare time. That evidence gave him the confidence to leave his office job. The first year of self-employment was not easy. Some months were busy, while others were worryingly quiet. Marcus had to learn about advertising, customer communication, pricing, and taxes, subjects he had never considered while working for a company. He made mistakes, including charging too little for several difficult projects. Nevertheless, he did not regret his decision. The work required more responsibility, but it also gave him a sense of ownership. Today, Marcus runs a small workshop and trains an apprentice. He earns slightly less than he did in insurance, but he no longer spends his week waiting for Friday. His experience taught him that changing direction does not always require one dramatic act of courage. Sometimes courage means preparing carefully, collecting evidence, and taking a calculated risk. Now answer the questions. Question 1. Why did Marcus remain uncertain for nearly a year? A. He did not enjoy repairing furniture. B. He was worried about losing financial stability. C. His friends opposed the idea. Question 2. What gave Marcus confidence to leave his job? A. He received more repair requests than he could manage at weekends. B. His company reduced his salary. C. He found a business partner. Question 3. Which statement best expresses the main idea? A. People should leave any job they find boring. B. A successful business always earns more than office. Work.C. A major change can be approached through preparation and calculated risk. Here are the answers. Question 1. B. Question 2. A question 3. C. Write your B2 score. If you scored 2 or 3, your listening may be around B2 or higher. Now the language becomes more advanced. Let's move to C1. Level 5. C1. Advanced at C1 level. You can follow extended speech about complex subjects. You can understand implied meaning, abstract ideas, and relationships between arguments. Listen carefully. When Dr. Amira Saleh was asked to lead a public health project across several rural communities, she initially assumed that the greatest challenge would be limited funding. The project aimed to improve access to preventive health care by organizing mobile clinics, training local volunteers, and providing reliable information about common illnesses. The budget was certainly tight, but Amira soon discovered that money was not the central difficulty. The real challenge was trust. Several communities had participated in earlier programs that had begun with enthusiasm and disappeared without explanation outside. Organizations had collected information, taken photographs, and made ambitious promises, yet residents had seen little lasting benefit. As a result, many people viewed the new project with understandable suspicion, Amira's first instinct. was to defend her team's intentions. She wanted to explain that this program was different and that everyone involved was committed to long-term improvement. However, a local teacher advised her to stop explaining and start listening. He told her that trust could not be requested in a presentation. It had to be demonstrated through consistent behavior. Amira therefore changed her approach. Instead of arriving with a completed plan, her team held small meetings and asked residents what they actually needed. Some answers surprised them. For example, the original proposal focused heavily on new medical equipment, but several villages considered transport and appointment times more urgent. A clinic with excellent equipment was useless if patients could not reach it or had to miss an entire day of work. The team redesigned the schedule, arranged shared transport, and trained local volunteers to provide basic follow-up support. Progress became slower than the funding organization had expected. Its representatives wanted impressive numbers for their reports. More clinics, more patients, and faster expansion. Amira understood their pressure, but she argued that measuring activity was not the same as measuring impact. A high number of short visits might look successful on paper while failing to create meaningful change. She insisted that the project evaluate whether patients returned for follow-up appointments, understood their treatment, and felt confident asking questions. This position occasionally placed her in conflict with senior decision-makers. Nevertheless, the slower strategy began producing results. Attendance became more consistent, volunteers remained involved, and residents started suggesting improvements rather than simply receiving instructions. One village even created its own weekly transport system without waiting for the project team. For Amira, that development mattered more than any impressive statistic. It showed that the community no longer regarded the program as something temporarily delivered by outsiders. People had begun treating it as their own. The experience changed Amira's understanding of leadership. She had previously associated leadership with expertise, direction, and decisive action. She still valued those qualities, but she now believed that leadership also required restraint. Sometimes the most responsible decision was to delay action, admit uncertainty, and allow people closest to a problem to shape the solution. Authority might produce quick obedience, but participation created commitment. And commitment, unlike obedience, could remain after the official project ended. Now answer the questions. Question 1. Why were residents suspicious of the new project? A. They did not believe preventive healthcare was useful. B. Previous organizations had made promises without creating lasting benefits. C. They preferred private hospitals. Question 2. Why did Amira resist focusing only on high activity numbers? A. She believed activity figures could look impressive without showing meaningful impact. B. She did not want the project to expand. C. She found statistical reports too difficult. Question 3. How did Amira's view of leadership change? A. She concluded that leaders should avoid making decisions. B. She learned that leadership includes listening, restraint, and shared ownership. C. She decided that expertise was unnecessary. Here are the answers. Question 1. B. Question 2. A. Question 3. B. Write your C1 score. If you scored 2 or 3, you can probably follow advanced English and complex reasoning. Now we have reached the final level, C2, Level 6, C2, Proficiency at C2 level. You can understand demanding language with subtle distinctions, layered arguments, and implied conclusions. Listen for both the ideas and the attitude behind them. It is often said that modern life has created a crisis of attention. The usual explanation is technological. Our devices interrupt us. Online platforms compete for our focus, and information arrives faster than we can process it. There is considerable truth in this argument. Yet blaming technology alone may be comforting, precisely because it allows us to imagine that attention is merely being stolen from us. If distraction is entirely external, then responsibility for it belongs elsewhere. The more uncomfortable possibility is that we sometimes cooperate with distraction. Constant activity protects us from the unease of being Still, the moment a cue stops moving, a conversation pauses, or a difficult task becomes frustrating, we reach for stimulation. We tell ourselves that we are saving time or remaining informed, although we may actually be avoiding the experience directly in front of us. This does not mean that distraction is a moral failure. Attention has always wandered. Human beings are naturally alert to novelty because, for much of our history, noticing change had practical value. What is different now is not the existence of distraction, but its availability. We carry an endless supply of novelty in our pockets, designed to remove even the briefest interval of boredom. Boredom, however, may not be the enemy we assume it to be. It can function as a threshold. When immediate entertainment disappears, the mind initially protests. Then, if we remain patient, it begins making its own connections. Memories surface, unresolved questions return, and ideas that seemed unrelated start forming unexpected patterns. Many people describe their best thoughts arriving while walking, washing dishes, or looking through a train window. These activities are not intellectually impressive, but they create enough mental space for thought to develop without being forced. The difficulty is that such space can feel unproductive. We have become accustomed to visible evidence of effort, messages answered, pages completed, tasks removed from a list. Reflection produces no immediate receipt. Its value may appear hours or even years later, which makes it difficult to measure and easy to dismiss. An organization may praise creativity while filling every employee's day with meetings. An individual may claim to value deep relationships while repeatedly interrupting conversations to check a screen. In both cases, stated priorities are contradicted by the structure of attention. What we consistently attend to eventually becomes our life, regardless of what we say matters. Recovering attention, therefore, is not simply a matter of increasing concentration. It involves deciding what deserves to be noticed. Concentration can be used for trivial purposes just as effectively as meaningful ones. A person may focus intensely on appearing successful while remaining inattentive to whether that success brings fulfillment. The deeper question is not, how can I concentrate for longer? It is, what kind of person is my attention teaching me to become? This question has no universal answer. For one person, attention may need to return to family. For another, to craft, community, health, or the natural world. The point is not to reject technology or romanticize an earlier age that had distractions of its own. It is to recognize attention as a form of choice, even when that choice is shaped by powerful systems. We may not control every interruption, but we can create conditions in which certain kinds of thought and relationship become more possible. That could mean walking without headphones, leaving a phone outside the bedroom, protecting an hour for uninterrupted work, or allowing a conversation to unfold without planning the next reply. These gestures appear small, perhaps even insignificant. Yet a life is largely composed of repeated gestures. Attention rarely changes through one heroic decision. It is trained quietly, through what we return to after being interrupted. In that sense, the opposite of distraction is not perfect focus. It is devotion, the willingness to return, again and again, to what we have decided is worthy of our limited time. Now answer the final questions. Question 1. Why does the speaker say that blaming technology alone can be comforting? A. It suggests that distraction is entirely external and removes some personal responsibility. B. It proves that older generations concentrated perfectly. C. It encourages people to buy fewer devices. Question 2. What does the passage suggest about boredom? A. It is always harmful to productivity. B. It can create mental space in which ideas and connections develop. C. It should be replaced by structured learning. Question 3. What is the central distinction between concentration and attention in the passage? A. Concentration is physical, while attention is emotional. B. Concentration is only possible without technology. C. Concentration concerns sustained focus, while the deeper issue of attention concerns what we choose to consider worthy. Here are the answers. Question 1. A. Question 2. B. Question 3. C. Write your C2 score. If you scored 2 or 3, you demonstrated very strong comprehension of sophisticated spoken English. Understanding your result now. Look at your 6 scores. Your estimated listening level is the highest level at which you scored at least 2 points out of 3. For example, if you scored well at A1 but fewer than 2 points at A2, your current listening level is probably around A1. If you scored 2 or 3 points at A2 but struggled with B1, you are probably around A2. If you reached B1, you can follow clear English about familiar experiences, work, and goals. If you reached B2, you can understand detailed speech, opinions, and more natural storytelling. If you reached C1, you can follow complex explanations and abstract reasoning. If you reach C2, you can understand subtle, sophisticated English at or near a highly proficient level. Your score is only one piece of information. You may have strong reading skills but weaker listening skills. You may understand advanced vocabulary, but need more practice with pronunciation or fast speech. You might also understand a topic better when it is familiar. That is normal. Language ability is not a single number. It is a combination of listening, reading, speaking, writing, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and communication. Use today's result as a guide, not as a limit. Your Day 11 Challenge. Here is your challenge. Listen again to the passage one level above your result. This time, turn on the subtitles, write down 5 words or expressions that you did not understand. During the first listen, find their meanings. Then listen to the passage again without subtitles. You may be surprised by how much clearer it becomes. Finally, choose one sentence from that passage and repeat it aloud 3 times. When you finish, write this in the comments. Day 11 complete. My estimated level is... Then add your level. A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, or C2. Also tell us which passage felt challenging. Closing fantastic work. Today, you listened to English at 6 different levels. You tested your understanding. You followed increasingly complex vocabulary, grammar, and ideas, and most importantly, you discovered what to practice next. If one section felt difficult, do not feel discouraged. Difficulty is useful information. It shows you where growth can happen. Do not compare your result with another learner. Compare your English today with your English last month. Every time you listen carefully, learn a new expression, or speak despite feeling uncertain, you are moving forward. Tomorrow, in Day 12, we will continue strengthening your practical English. Subscribe to VerbaJoy English and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next lesson. Remember, your level is not your identity. It is simply your current position on a long and rewarding journey. Keep listening, keep learning, keep speaking, and keep going. This is VerbaJoy English, where you learn English and speak with joy. I'm proud of you for completing Day 11. I will see you tomorrow for Day 12 of our 14-day English speaking challenge.